She spent 3 years building a company alongside her father, learning every client, every deal, every secret, and he handed it all to her entitled stepbrother without a second thought. Betrayed, humiliated, and left with nothing but her knowledge and determination, Jessica discovers a hidden inheritance from her grandmother. But there's a catch. She must build her own empire from scratch. What follows is a relentless journey of heartbreak, cunning, and courage as she rises from betrayal to create a business and foundation that no one could take away. Will she reclaim her power, or will the weight of family deceit crush her dreams forever? The chandelier's crystals caught the morning sun, scattering shards of light across the marble floor as I stood frozen in the center of the living room, a glass of untouched coffee sweating in my hand, the city outside humming softly. Indifferent to the storm brewing inside this gilded cage I called home, my name is Jessica, and for the last 3 years I had poured myself into every corner of my father's company, believing in a promise that now felt like smoke slipping through my fingers. While Meredith, my stepmother, moved with meticulous grace, placing freshly cut roses into an antique vase like some sacred ritual of conquest, each petal mocking me, delicate and perfect, as my father paced by his mahogany desk, checking his watch as if to remind me how little time I had left in his favor. "Everyone, please sit." His voice cut through the room like steel, the tone of authority I had once respected now carrying a weight that crushed me. Quinton lounged in the leather armchair, designer watch glinting, smugness etched into every line, 22 years old and unearned, basking in the sunlight of entitlement while I gritted my teeth and gripped the sofa until my knuckles ached, trying to steady the tremor in my hands. After careful consideration, I've decided to transfer majority ownership and control to Quinton, my father announced, glancing at Meredith, whose triumphant smile felt like a knife to my chest. Time fractured. The words ricocheted through the room, collapsing my world in a single heartbeat. That makes no sense, I whispered, a gasp more than a protest, while Meredith's hand landed on Quinton's shoulder. Fresh perspective, she cooed, exactly what the company needs. I forced myself to stand, legs unsteady, every fiber of my body screaming, 3 years. I know every client, every supplier, I've earned my place, but my father's gaze drifted away, refusing to meet mine. Jessica, he said, voice final and rehearsed, this decision wasn't made lightly. Quinton has innovative ideas that align better with our vision. I laughed hollowly. Vision? I repeated, voice trembling. You promised me a future. You promised that when I finished my MBA, I would inherit what I built with you. Quinton smirked, leaning back, his words a knife wrapped in sugar. Don't worry, sis, I'll keep you on, in some capacity. Maybe HR. The room spun. My father's decision was inked, sealed, delivered. I gathered my purse and walked toward the door, speaking through gritted teeth, congratulations, Quinton. I hope you enjoy running the company. Meredith's voice trailed like a curse. This is why we need someone more level-headed in charge. Outside, the air hit me like revelation, the city moving on oblivious to the fracture in my world, my phone buzzing with Lucy's message. How did it go? I stared at traffic flowing below, vision blurring. Everything they promised me, everything I worked for, given to him. And yet, beneath the betrayal, beneath the burning weight in my chest, a spark of resolve flickered. This wasn't the end, not yet. I started the engine, letting tears fall only when no one could see. Today, they had taken my inheritance, but they had not yet touched my fire. The next 3 days passed in a blur of sleepless nights and unanswered questions, my apartment lit only by the glow of my laptop and the streetlights that smeared through the blinds. When I finally found myself in Virgil's office, the familiar scent of old leather and polished wood grounding me as if I'd returned to a place where someone still believed in me. He looked older than I remembered, worry etched into the corners of his eyes, and I felt my chest tighten before I spoke. I don't understand, I said, voice raw, clutching a tissue like a lifeline. How could he legally hand everything to Quinton? I thought the company was meant to be mine, ours, by right. Virgil adjusted his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose, a slow exhale escaping him. Jessica, Your father restructured the company last year. Majority shareholder. He had the right. This was planned long before today. My stomach turned, betrayal compounded by premeditation. He hesitated, then retrieved a thick folder from a filing cabinet, sliding it across the desk to me with deliberate care. My fingers trembled as I opened it, revealing pages of contracts, notes, and a document in my grandmother's unmistakable handwriting, a trust fund in my name, $2 million, contingent on me starting my own business by age 30. My heart thumped with a mixture of disbelief and a fragile, dawning hope. She knew, I whispered, almost to myself, she knew this could happen. Virgil nodded solemnly. She wanted you to earn it, Jessica. Not just inherit it. No family interference, no shortcuts. Your success had to be entirely your own. I sank back in the chair, the weight of everything, the loss, the anger, the humiliation, beginning to shift into a fierce, combustible determination. For the first time in days, the air felt like possibility instead of suffocation. My father had given me nothing, Quinton had taken everything, and yet here was a path, illuminated by my grandmother's foresight, daring me to prove I could rise on my own terms. I stared at the city skyline through the office window, imagining the business I could build, the mistakes I could avoid, the world I could shape. The fire in my chest that Quinton and Meredith had tried to extinguish now roared in response. This wasn't just about reclaiming what I had lost. It was about becoming the person I was meant to be, earning every hard-won step of it. And if anyone thought they could stand in my way, they hadn't counted on the granddaughter of a woman who had already anticipated every betrayal, every setback, and had left me the tools to rise stronger than ever. The city felt electric that evening, neon signs flickering like restless thoughts as I sat across from Lucy in our favorite cafe, the hum of conversation around us fading into a low, urgent pulse in my chest. I tapped the edge of my coffee cup, forcing myself to speak, though the words felt heavier than the $2 million folder that had already changed everything. We can do this, Lucy. We can build something that matters, something they can't take from me, I said, the tremor in my voice betraying both fear and excitement. She leaned in, eyes sharp, scanning my spreadsheet and sketches, the flicker of pride in her gaze igniting a spark I hadn't felt in days. But before I could exhale, my phone buzzed. Quinton. I froze, knowing who it was before I even looked. The message was brief, smug in its casual arrogance. Heard you're starting something on your own. Let's talk. Coffee? I have a proposal. My stomach dropped. My hand hovered over the screen, heart hammering against my ribs. He had no right. Not anymore. And yet the seed of doubt planted itself. What if I wasn't ready? What if this wasn't enough? I pushed the phone aside, refusing to give him any power. Ignore him, I whispered, but Lucy's gaze lingered, sharp, like she could see the fissure in my armor. That night, back in my small apartment surrounded by stacks of notes, supplier lists, and endless tabs open on my laptop, the weight of the challenge settled over me fully. I was starting from scratch, no inherited clients, no boardroom advantages, just a vision and the trust fund I couldn't reveal. I drafted emails to manufacturers, calculated production costs, and built a pitch deck from nothing, my hands shaking, my mind racing, feeling the pulse of possibility and terror in equal measure. Then a sudden knock at my door froze me mid-type. My heart lurched. I opened it to find Quinton, designer watch glinting, smugness dripping from every inch of him. Planning your next big move, sis, he said, stepping in without invitation, confidence radiating like a physical force. I swallowed hard, forcing calm into my posture. Actually, yes. I am. He smirked, eyes scanning the cluttered apartment, the blueprints, the spreadsheets. With what money? Who's funding this little adventure of yours? His voice was casual, mocking, but I felt the sting of the insult, the memory of the company he had been handed. That's none of your concern, I said, keeping my voice even, but the tremor in my jaw betrayed me. Lucy stepped forward, her presence a shield beside me, and he leaned closer, voice dropping, "Come on, Jess. You don't have to do this alone. We could collaborate. You could be part of the family business again." I laughed, bitter and sharp. You mean the business you ran into the ground? The one Dad handed to you instead of me? No thanks. I've got my own path now. He froze for a fraction, and in that pause, I realized how far I'd come. No longer the overlooked daughter, no longer the shadow of Quinton's entitlement. I was someone who had the power to choose, to define herself, to claim success on her own terms. He left, smirk faltering, and in the sudden silence that followed, I turned to Lucy, heart still racing but steadying. This is it, I whispered. We build. And we do it our way. The city outside the window seemed to shift with me, lights brighter, possibilities sharper, as I tapped open a new tab and began drafting emails to potential clients, plotting a sustainable empire, feeling, for the first time, that the betrayal I had endured was no longer a wound, it was fuel. The morning sunlight cut through the dusty blinds of our small downtown office, illuminating the chaos of half-unpacked boxes, scattered prototypes, and hastily scribbled notes. Lucy and I moved in. Synchronized urgency, phones buzzing with potential clients, emails pinging with investor interest. But the real storm came with a single text flashing across my screen. Quinton. Joseph Industries. Urgent. Call me. My chest tightened, but I ignored it, taking a deep breath, grounding myself in the momentum we had built from scratch. The $2 million trust fund, still a secret weapon waiting to be activated. Let's finalize the pitch deck for Green Shift Solutions, I said firmly, clicking through projections, production timelines, and supplier contracts, forcing my pulse to match the rhythm of purpose, not panic. Hours later, at the restaurant chain's corporate headquarters, I sat across from Sarah, the head of procurement, watching her eyes narrow and widen as I presented our eco-friendly packaging solutions, every chart, every forecast meticulously prepared, every word measured with the weight of proving myself, not just to her, but to a family that had underestimated me for years. I need to know why I should trust you over the established suppliers, Sarah said, leaning back, arms crossed, the kind of challenge that could make or break a startup. I leaned forward, voice steady, because we're not just selling products. We're offering a complete transition solution, sustainable, cost-effective, and scalable. We'll streamline operations, train your staff, and ensure compliance. No middlemen. No inflated prices. Just results. She paused, impressed, yet skeptical, and I could feel the room vibrating with tension, like a live wire between possibility and risk. And then it came, my phone buzzing again, this time a call I refused, letting it go to voicemail, Quinton's name flashing like a provocation I wouldn't allow to derail me. The meeting ended with a handshake, Sarah agreeing to a trial run at 2 locations, and my chest lifted with a mix of relief and triumph, only to be tempered by the next wave of pressure. The Industry Expo, a hall full of competitors, investors, journalists, and the inevitable collision course with my past. Walking into the buzzing crowd with Lucy at my side, I spotted him before he spotted me. Quinton, suit immaculate, confidence forced, smirk plastered like armor, flanked by my father and Meredith, cameras catching every angle, journalists jotting notes, and the weight of family expectation pressing down on my shoulders. He leaned over one of our prototypes, voice carrying over the murmur, launching your own line? Ambitious. Disruptive, maybe, but is it sustainable? I straightened, feeling the adrenaline spike. We've secured a national restaurant chain contract, streamlined our supply chain, and offer solutions your company can't. This isn't about disrupting. It's about innovating responsibly. The reporter scribbled furiously, snapping photos, and I saw the flicker of doubt cross Quinton's eyes, the first crack in his veneer. My father lingered behind, eyes darting between us, unspoken questions in his gaze, Meredith whispering pointed comments, all the social theater of family betrayal colliding with the hard reality of earned success. Lucy leaned close, whispering, "This is it, the moment they realize you're not just fighting back, you're leading." I nodded, heart hammering but steady, aware that every word, every gesture, every demonstration in that hall would echo far beyond the expo, a public declaration that I was no longer the overlooked daughter, the betrayed heir. I was a force of my own making. And as the crowd leaned in, cameras capturing my presentation, and Quinton's smirk faltered for the first time. I felt the culmination of years of pain, anger, and determination coalesce into a singular clarity. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about proving that my vision, my work, my choices were enough, that I had survived betrayal, transformed it into fuel, and was ready to rise beyond everything they had tried to take from me. The tension was electric, the stakes personal and global, and in that charged silence before applause, I realized the true battle wasn't over money, or power, or family. It was about the legacy I was ready to claim, my own, unshakable and untouchable. The city skyline glared through the glass walls of my office as Quinton and Dad stood there, unsteady, shadows of arrogance stripped away, the hum of traffic below a faint pulse against the storm inside me. Quinton's smirk faltered as he held up one of our biodegradable containers, fingers trembling. You think this, all of this, just happened? I met his gaze, calm yet fierce, letting the weight of 3 years of betrayal and relentless work settle like a living force between us. It happened because I refused to let your choices define me. Everything you took, everything you promised and broke, I rebuilt stronger, smarter, better on my terms. My father's eyes filled with an ache I'd never seen before, a fragile admission of regret trembling on his lips. Jessica. I shook my head slowly, the anger and hurt coiling into something crystalline, something final. No, Dad. This is where you see what I can do and what I will do. You cannot take this from me. You never could. Quinton's laughter died before it reached the end of the room, brittle, hollow, a sound that belonged to someone already defeated. I stepped closer, every measured stride a declaration of ownership over my life, over my vision, over the legacy I would forge, and said, I will not save your company. I will not hold your hand through the mess you made. You gave everything to Quinton. I am giving nothing back. This is mine to lead, mine to grow, mine to define. My father sank into a chair, shoulders heavy with the weight of the choices that had led us here, and for the first time, I saw the man I had once revered humbled by his own blindness, staring at the future I had claimed, untouchable. Quinton's eyes flicked between me and Dad, desperation gnawing at the edges of his arrogance, but there was no argument left, no leverage, no legacy that could intimidate me into submission. I turned toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, breathing in the skyline, the possibilities, the work that lay ahead, and whispered, almost to myself, this is what it means to rise when they try to bury you. This is what it means to be truly unstoppable. And in that moment, the past fell away entirely, leaving only the fierce, unshakable presence of who I had become. Weeks blurred into months, and the rhythm of Green Shift Solutions became the pulse of my life, a steady heartbeat born from loss, determination, and unrelenting vision. Every call I answered, every investor meeting I navigated, every prototype I tested carried the memory of what had been taken from me and what I had fought to reclaim. Not money, not recognition, but the quiet, unshakable proof that I could create, endure, and rise. The city hummed around me through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our downtown headquarters, lights reflecting off the glass like scattered constellations, and I felt, for the first time, the calm certainty that I had earned my place here, not as my father's daughter, not as Quinton's stepsister, but as someone who had clawed her own path from betrayal to triumph. Lucy leaned against my desk, grinning over the latest shipment reports, her energy contagious, her loyalty unwavering, and I realized I wasn't just building a company, I was building a life. A legacy that mirrored my grandmother's foresight and my own relentless drive. Then came the calls, the messages, the inquiries from companies wanting our eco-friendly packaging, from startups seeking mentorship, from young entrepreneurs asking for guidance and hope. It was more than business, it was impact. Proof that the smallest acts of courage and resilience could ripple outward, touching lives I would never meet, reshaping industries and carving out spaces for those who dared to dream beyond inheritance. I thought of Dad, still humbled, still learning, and of Quinton, lost somewhere in the haze of entitlement and collapse, and I felt no triumphal glee, only the quiet satisfaction that comes from building, from knowing that no one could erase the work, the knowledge, the heart I had poured into this endeavor. Autumn winds stirred the leaves along the streets below, and I felt the same breeze that had once carried whispers of betrayal now lifting me forward. A reminder that life's currents could be cruel or kind depending on how one navigated them. In this moment, I understood fully that true strength is forged not in comfort or privilege, but in loss, in the fire of challenge, in the unwavering commitment to one's own vision. Virgil had called earlier, leaving a folder of my grandmother's final instructions, and I had opened it with trembling hands to discover the framework for a foundation she had designed long before I ever imagined it, a foundation to support women, young entrepreneurs, and sustainable ventures, a living testament to her wisdom and belief in earned success. And suddenly I knew that everything I had endured, the heartbreak, the humiliation, the betrayal, was merely the crucible through which my purpose had been revealed. I arranged a meeting with my team in the sleek, sunlit conference room, every face focused, every hand ready to contribute, and as I laid out the plan to launch the Legacy Foundation, I felt a profound peace, a clarity that transcended victory or revenge. This was creation, impact, purpose, and the culmination of every lesson life had forced me to learn. Later, I visited my grandmother's grave with Dad, her marble headstone catching the amber glow of the setting sun, and together we placed fresh blooms, a silent acknowledgement that the past could be honored even as the future was claimed. Dad's voice trembled as he said, "She would be proud of you, Jess, proud of the woman you became." I smiled, letting the warmth of that recognition settle in my chest, but I also felt the steady beat of something more enduring than pride. It was certainty, resilience, and the deep, unshakable knowledge that the story belonged to me alone. As the leaves rustled in the autumn breeze, I turned my gaze toward the horizon, where the city lights began to flicker alive, each one a promise, a challenge, a dream waiting to be realized, and I whispered into the wind, "This is only the beginning." Knowing that the path ahead would demand everything, that it would test my courage and my vision, but that no hand, no promise, no betrayal could ever take from me the life I had chosen to build. In that moment, I felt my grandmother's presence. Not as a memory, but as a living force guiding me forward, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that true inheritance is not what is given, it is what is forged, claimed, and lived, and I would carry that truth into every boardroom, every decision, every dawn, building not just a company or a foundation, but a legacy that could outlast all the petty betrayals of the world and endure as a beacon for those who dare to rise from the ashes, stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. Subscribe now to stay inspired and witness stories of resilience, ambition, and transformation, where setbacks become fuel, challenges turn into victories, and every twist of fate is met with courage and determination.